Hello and welcome to me. Hi, this is the 20,000 subscriber Q&A. Hi. My name is Noah, aka Lonestar of Lonestar Trip Reports. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I don't really know how to do off-the-cuff Q&A type videos. I've always scripted my stuff. I mean, you'll see me looking down because I've got a monitor down here with notes and whatnot about things I want to say, but, you know, I've always scripted my videos, so if this seems a little off, that's why. Anyway, I'm a full-time student currently in mechanical engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. I'll be completing my final semester to get my bachelor's degree here, I guess next semester, and then I'm off to the real world to do real-world things, which is a weird phrase to say, but, you know, so life goes on. This is the 20,000 subscriber special. I mean, 20,000, that's just a weird thing to say. Back when I started this in, July of 2020, I didn't think I would be anywhere near this point, and yet here we are. It's been an unbelievable journey. I can't thank each and every one of you enough for the support that you've given me over the past 2.5 years. You've afforded me some incredible opportunities, and I've been able to share my passion for travel and transportation with y'all. So it's been a great year, but it's high time that I did something like this, just to mark the occasion. So let's just go ahead and get started. So from Nick P, we have, we'd love to know the story behind who you are, where you're from, and what makes you you. So I've always loved trains, planes, and cars. It's just something that I've always been passionate about. I mean, ever since I've been conscious, there's not a time I couldn't remember where I've been interested in these. The other thing is I've always wanted to be a YouTuber of some kind. I grew up right as YouTube was starting to really hit the market, so I kind of grew up alongside the foundation of the internet as a modern tool for today, and everyone and their best friend always wanted to be big YouTuber and making the YouTube money, so it's just something that I always wanted to do. And in the past, I'd had a couple attempts at it. I'd done some small gaming channels back when I was, I don't even know how old. I want to say it was over a decade ago, so quite young. But none were particularly successful, mainly because, I didn't have the commitment to it. I was a kid, so I didn't really know how any of it worked. I just kind of made the things and then uploaded them, and then, that was that. And then, there came a time when I wanted to transition more towards making train and plane content, really just rail fanning and plane spotting, with the goal of, being able to pay for more travel to go do more rail fanning and plane spotting. And so I started what at the time I called the main channel, and is now the second channel, of me making videos of just trains and planes. And from there, it was also at that time when I started watching a lot of travel YouTubers, Simply Railway, Jeb Brooks, Noel Phillips. Those are the three that come to mind, but I mean, there are plenty more out there that I was watching. And I thought, I could do that. That seems interesting. This is a topic I'm interested in, and, this is something that I could totally do. And so I filmed the first trip report, or I guess rail review, as I called it at the time, of the Capital Metro Red Line here in Austin, and it did, quite well, and I mean very well in comparison to anything else I was uploading at the time. And I kind of thought, oh well, maybe this could be what I create. This could be my ticket into YouTube, and so I created the Trip Report channel, and it's been an incredible 2.5 years since. So yeah, that's pretty much why I started. So Stephen Keever asks, my questions would be, what inspired you to become a YouTube trip blogger, and what is the favorite trip you have taken so far? I think I answered the first part of that fairly well. It's the above, I guess. As far as a favorite trip, there have been so many, it's hard to pick one, but I think the best that edges it out over all of them is the Coast Starlight that I did earlier this year. I did that with one of my closest friends, And I mean, you can hear him and I having banter in the background of that video if you really listen close. But I mean, that was a long time want for me to travel on. The Coast Starlight is one of the big 4 or 5 that Amtrak has on the western side of the United States. And, you know, being able to do that with someone I've been friends with for many, many years now, and also having it live up to the hype of, like, you know, seeing the coast and also cruising through the mountains of California and then into Washington and, you know, Oregon and all that, and being able to just see the parts of America that you really can't see any other way was really just fantastic. So the Coast Starlight is definitely up there. It's current number 1, but I'm sure that, you know, as I get out to Europe or maybe even Asia in the next year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if that changes. But for now, so far it's the Coast Starlight. The Geopolitical asks a couple of questions. Have you ever considered making NYC subway content? I would really enjoy it. I have considered it. I definitely have, but my issue with it is that it's difficult to frame it in a trip report style. Of course, you know, if I really did it, it would probably be framed a little bit differently, but I'm not 100% sure how I would make it fit with the rest of the content that I make. So if you have suggestions as to what you might want to see for such a thing, do let me know. If anyone else has any ideas as to what, you know, if NYC subway content might be something y'all are interested in, do let me know. Unfortunately, I'm not based out of New York City, so it'd be a whenever I get there kind of thing. But if that's something that y'all want to see, do let me know and I can make it happen. Geopolitical asks, why do you enjoy trains so much, and are you from New York? Second one first. Legally, I am from New York. I was born in Manhattan. However, my family didn't stay there for very long, and, you know, we moved to Austin, and Austin's been my home for really as long as I can remember. So while legally New York is my birthplace, Austin is my home. As far as loving trains, I just always have. I don't think there's been a time when I could not remember loving trains. I think it was something to do with being from New York City. It's just in my blood. I've always loved seeing trains, you know, race past and being on them and being a part of the whole rail travel, being a part of rail travel and being able to see parts of the country that you really can't see any other way. It's just always been something that I've loved and wanted to be a part of. And I mean, high-speed rail in particular is incredible. It's a shame that we don't have more of it here in the United States. I know that there are projects coming. I know that Brightline West is coming, California High-Speed Rail, the Avalia Liberties on the Northeast Corridor, but those are future projects, and it's a shame that we don't have more now. What are your thoughts on the new Siemens diesel locomotives and the new Acela trains? The Siemens diesels, I think, are great. I know they've had some early reliability issues, but you know, the P42 DCs, the Genesis locomotives, have been in service for 2 decades now, and I mean, looking at the condition of some of the P42s I had on my journey a couple of weeks ago, they were rusting through and really were not in good shape. So, you know, something was needed to replace them, and I think that the Chargers are a great replacement for them. They're more reliable, they meet higher emission standards, they're faster with top speed of 125. Plus, they also look really nice. I mean, the ALC 42s look fantastic. The SC 44s, less so. I mean, there's a charm to them, but like, you look at the ALC and then you look at the SC44 and you go, oh, you know, there's clearly a favorite of the two. So as far as the new Acelas go, I have mixed feelings about them. While I do love the Alstom platform on which they're built and the Alstom branding that comes from it, you know, being the principal developer and principal manufacturer of the TGV train sets in France, and really Europe in general, you know, being able to have something that is, well, theoretically it was tried and true, is great it's a great look for the United States, and it's a great step forward for us. The only problem is that these train sets were the next generation and they aren't tried and true. Unfortunately, the modeling issues that Alstom has had, they haven't been able to make the models match the train sets, and so the train sets aren't able to enter service because it's a requirement by the FRA. But also there's the whole other issue of like, parts breaking, windows shattering randomly. The trains have to be sent back to Alstom to be fixed, so who knows when we're actually going to see them in service. I think they're currently saying 24, but who knows? It's going to be a while. I mean, I'll be there whenever it starts, whenever service begins, but it's going to be a minute before we actually see these in service. Do you have any thoughts on the NYC 2nd Avenue subway? I think it's about time that the 2nd Avenue subway becomes a reality. I mean, looking at the map of Manhattan, the east side of Manhattan has always been a historically underserved population. So I think it's great that they're finally getting a rail line, subway line out there to connect them to the rest of New York without requiring 10 or 12 block walks to get to the nearest station. That being said, I don't necessarily think the benefits of the project, or at least the full benefits of the project, will be seen until phases 2 and 3 are complete. Phase 2 is the extension north to 125th, and then phase 3 is the construction of the T line from 125th down to Houston Street, for those of you who don't know. Unfortunately, I think phase 3 doesn't get F funding as far as I'm aware. So, we'll see what happens when that comes around, but I can't wait for it to happen. I think it's a great thing for New York. So yeah, from Elizabeth Chamberlain, how did you become interested in trains? What is your favorite Amtrak route? And have I ever done a loop across the country? Interested in trains? C. Prior. I think I did a good job answering that. Favorite Amtrak route is, again, the Coast Starlight. I think it combines so many great things into one fantastic journey. I mean, there's, great views of the coast. There's great rides through the mountains. You meet some fantastic people, eat some pretty good food. That'll likely change once I ride the California Zephyr sometime next year. But, for now, the Coast Starlight is number one, at least in my heart. Have I ever done a loop across the country? Not yet. I haven't yet. And that's because I'm waiting for the southern United States, the Gulf Coast line that was wiped out in Katrina. I'm waiting for that to be rebuilt and reopened. I know the first part of it is coming with the extension from New Orleans to Mobile, but once we get that connection reestablished to Jacksonville, and really Florida in general, then I'll probably end up doing a loop of the United States. But for now, no, because it feels like cheating to go all the way to do like most of the loop from New York, then to Seattle, down to LA, and then across to New Orleans, and then just cut up on the crescent. It feels like cheating a little bit, just because like you're skipping so much of the US by doing that. So it's just not something I've wanted to do yet. I will do it. It's just not right now. I got quite a few questions about what my favorite journey has been in some way, shape, or form. The Almighty Doge, A Wild Komodo Gaming, Adventures of Amtrak Cascades, and Cab Car 8306 all asked very similar questions to this one. Throughout all the years of immense travel, what has been your number one most memorable or favorite journey you've ever had? Favorite journey, as I mentioned, the Coast Starlight. I think that was incredible, but most memorable for me was going to Tanzania in Africa. The Tanzania was such a spectacular adventure. I mean, going to see the safari, doing these little puddle jumper planes to get out into the Serengeti, being right next to some animals that like you only see in groups of like 2 or 3 at a zoo, you now see in thousands in fields across the Serengeti, across the plains. So while yes, a lot of my favorite travel experiences have been on trains, flying out to Tanzania, knowing that I'm about to be a part of something, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, I would say. It was really something special. Feline Storm asks, let's say you win an all expenses paid trip anywhere in the world, no restrictions, but you have to name a place within 5 seconds. Where do you go and why? Asia proper, and more specifically Japan. I know I have notes on this, so it seems like I'm cheating, but when I did first read this question and I did, actually time myself 5 seconds of like, where would I go? Japan was the first thought. And I mean, really it was Asia in general, but like if I had to pick a specific place, Japan. There are so many great experiences and cultures out in Asia that I haven't been able to experience yet. And of course, for the sake of this YouTube channel, there's a lot of great railways out in Japan and South Korea and China that I'd like to go and be able to experience, be able to share with y'all. You know, the Shinkansen is the greatest, effectively, I think it's one of the greatest railway networks in the world. The fact that trains run on time to the second in Japan is insane, let alone running consistently, at over 300 kilometers an hour, or 186 miles an hour for those of you in the US. I'd love to be able to be, experience that and then also share it with y'all and let y'all experience what some of the best railways in the world are truly like. So Asia would definitely be where I'd end up. Awesome Will 28 asks, what is one rail trip you are dreaming of making in the future? There are quite a few. The big three that come to mind are the Canadian, the California Zephyr, and the Gone in Australia. Ewan Marshall 2010 asks, you can only save one GE P42DC or EMD F40PH. I have to go with the P42. I just have to. I've effectively grown up alongside the P42. It's always been my favorite locomotive, always has been, and likely always will be. So, it only makes sense that I choose it to be the one to save. Memento Gabe asks, where were you or are you most excited to travel and why? Did it meet your expectations? Back in 2019, when I graduated from high school, I was able to go to Switzerland as a part of a graduation trip. And I don't know what I was expecting, but Switzerland is unbelievably beautiful. I was expecting, some mountains and, some great railways and, that's it. But it didn't matter where you went. It was always just completely stunning, whether it be, up in Zermatt by Matterhorn or, out by Lake Geneva. It was always beautiful. And even if you were one mountain range over, it would always look different. Everything looked different regardless of where you were. And, hiking through the mountains and rolling through the valleys by rail was really just something else. So of all the places that I've been, Switzerland just completely blew me away. So Thayagarajan Natharajan asks, what got you into trip reporting? Which other channels in the trip reporting world do you watch? And he'd also love to see a tier list of all of the reported trips, including the Capital Metro Rail video up to, this current week's video. And then he also asked, out of curiosity, do I play any sports? I think I've answered the first couple, the first two of those questions pretty well in some of the other answers I gave. I've always loved trains and travel, so it only made sense to, really get into this. I watch, Simply Railway was the main inspiration for me to start a channel like this. I also watch Jeb Brooks every now and then, Noel Phillips in there. So, but there's others that I just can't remember off the top of my head. So as far as the tier lists go, maybe someday I'll do that. There's so many at this point that it would take quite a while to do, but it might be something I do for 50k or 100k or something like that. Although I do have an idea of kind of what I want to do for 100k anyway, so maybe 50, 25k, who knows, we'll see. As far as sports, I played soccer for a long time. I think it was 14 years or something like that. I was a goalkeeper and played all throughout high school. But once I got to college, there just wasn't time for it. So had to drop something and that was it. So Tristan Wynn asked a couple questions. First of which, what's been your favorite new rail trip you've taken in the US in 2023? The Coast Starlight, easily. I think I answered why it was one of my favorites in a previous question, but going through California, seeing the mountains, the coastline, and then going up through Oregon and into Washington is just beautiful. Plus, I was traveling with one of my best friends, so that's always a plus, especially when, we were on a 30 some odd hour trip up the coast. So it's always fun to have someone to talk with and hang out with. Second question he asks, out of all the countries you've been to, what has been your favorite in terms of public transportation? So far, the Netherlands. It's so incredibly easy to get around in that country. Everything is integrated by rail. whether that be intercity rail between, major destinations, or that be local rail through subway lines, tram lines, etc. You don't need a car in the Netherlands. You really don't need it. Unlike, here in the US, where a car is effectively a necessity to live properly. But yeah, the Netherlands by far the best in terms of transportation. Moving on, Railfan Trains of San Diego Productions asks, what has been your best trip in California? Again, the Coast Starlight. The coast, the mountains, good food, really nothing better. Coast Starlight by far. Mark Guy 4145 asks, do you like Amtrak or Via Rail better? I have to say Amtrak. I think they have a more comprehensive service. They're definitely better quality sleeping accommodations. The coach and business class seating is by far and away better than what Via Rail has, especially on longer distance trains. I know I only walked through the coach car briefly on the ocean video that I did, which, to note, there is another one coming, and I will actually look at the economy seating in that video. But like walking through the HP2 car and we're not really being impressed by the space and the seats. I think Amtrak just is a little bit better. But yeah, I think of the two, Amtrak just wins out. Tommy Gunn asks just 1.5 questions, which interesting. Will you ever make it to Europe once more in the future? Maybe even Germany? And if so, would it be possible to meet you and show you around? As far as coming to Europe, absolutely. There's so much to see, so much to do in Europe, so many trains to travel on, and videos to make. And I know that there's a lot of videos that y'all would very much enjoy seeing, whether that be high-speed trains, intercity, sleeper services. There's a lot to do in Europe. So yes, absolutely, I will be coming back. When I do make it to Europe, I would absolutely love to be shown around. I've never been to Germany, and I would love to see all the major cities, all the beautiful sights, and be introduced to the rail network by someone who knows it evidently better than I do. You live there, of course you would. But yeah, I'm sure I'll make a comment or a post about it whenever I decide on what's happening. So when the time comes closer, we can figure that out. But yeah, love to be shown around. Jez's Old Tech asks, as you've done videos in both the US and the UK, what are the best and worst things about both systems? As far as the UK goes, I love how comprehensive the rail system is. It's super easy to travel, pretty much anywhere by rail without having to really think about it too much. That being said, I know that crowding during peak hours is a huge problem, in addition to train cancellations. I've heard horror stories about, people not being able to get home because of rail cancellations and issues like that. For the US, the long distance trains are amazing. I love traveling by rail, just, seeing things that you wouldn't be able to see from the air and really experiencing the kind of flyover states and the beauty that they have. There's also great food on Amtrak. Great relative to train food, but the traditional dining menu has some good options. The only issue is the ridiculous delays that these trains often have. 4 or 5 hour delays is not uncommon, and I've seen some get 8, 10 plus hour delays. So, there's things that need to get fixed. Yeah, Tusky's Travel Getaway asks, why didn't you ride the Vermonter into Vermont? This is actually a really good question. The scheduling just didn't work. I only had, I think, 3 days in the Northeast to really get things done, because I was working out of Greensboro at the time as a part of an internship. So I only had a 3-day weekend to go and film things. And I knew for a fact I wanted to ride both the Hartford line and, Amtrak's equivalent shuttle service, which got me to Springfield. But had I actually gone into Vermont and gone farther north, I wouldn't have had any way to get back south in time to get my connections back to North Carolina. I definitely want to go back and actually go into Vermont and see Vermont. Vermont, I've heard, is a beautiful, beautiful state, but that's a journey for a future video. So I hope that answers that. EAFD 270 asks, what is your favorite locomotive and why? P42, easily. I think I mentioned it before. I grew up alongside it. It's just always been the one I've associated with Amtrak and rail travel. and there's not anything else like it. It's a shame that they're being retired, but I mean, it's also a good thing they're being retired. They're old and rusting, and they definitely need replacement. Yeah, AB Trains asks, will you ever travel on the Eurostar one day, and will you do a rail trip report in Ireland? Eurostar, yes, 100%. It's on the radar, it's on the list. The way I'm planning it, sort of in my head, I haven't 100% decided on things. The way I'm considering doing it is flying to London and then taking the Eurostar to mainland Europe whenever I go back to Europe, probably this coming summer. So that's just, that'll happen. It'll be whatever the top class of the Eurostar is, because, I'm sure that y'all want to see that. As far as a rail trip report in Ireland, yeah, I would love to. It's just a question of when I can get back there and film a video or two, or however many y'all would like to see. There's plenty to do. There's great things to see. So if you have recommendations of things for me to look at, or if you just, in general, a video in Ireland, then let me know and I can make it happen. NYR Metros asks, how can we get a commuter train through running here in NYC? And do I prefer a subway or an elevated train? As far as a commuter train running through New York City, figure out how to integrate New Jersey Transit and the LIRR into one New York, New Jersey transit network. Until then, you'll probably just have to transfer at Penn. There's not much I can tell you there. As far as subways versus elevated trains, I have to go with subways all the way. As much as I love trains, elevated railways just do not look good in urban areas, and I mean really in general. They're super loud. And in colder climates, you're always exposed to the elements while waiting for a train. So it's effectively a lose-lose. But, I also understand that there's advantages in terms of construction costs. You don't have to tear up an entire roadway or do any tunneling to make it happen. So there's trade-offs that you do have to look at. But if I had to pick one, it'd be subway networks. Anonymous asks, if you could go anywhere, no matter how much it would cost or visas, where would you visit? Asia proper. There's so many different cultures and experiences to try and to be a part of. And I really want to see that. I really want to do that. That's also not to mention the insane rail networks of China, South Korea, and Japan. They have some crazy high-speed rail, upwards of 200 miles an hour. China has a maglev line that actually properly operates. And Japan has the Shinkansen network that's second to none. But yeah, part of that will be happening very soon. I will be going to South Korea and Japan this coming summer as a part of family travel, but I will get a little bit of time to film some stuff for the channel, so expect some of that stuff coming in the next couple of months. Mark Guy 4145 asks, what Mark locomotive do you like best? It has to be the HHP8. Mark is the last operator of the fully functional HHP8. I was wholeheartedly expecting them to fully retire those locomotives after the nightmares that have been, repairs and failures within those locomotives, but the fact that they've stuck with them is great. So, props to them for actually sticking with it. Lucas Wen asks, what was your most disappointing train trip? Are you into food and cooking? And what's one thing about yourself that we may not know? My most disappointing train trip was probably the Texas Eagle that I took back in 2021. This was the first really big sleeper train that I took. I know the Capital Limited technically came before that, but I hadn't initially planned on taking the Capital Limited, so I don't really count it, but it kind of falls into the same category for the same reasons. The scenery was bland. I mean, it's, Central America. There's not much to see. It's just fields of nothing. The arrival into St. Louis was beautiful, but outside of that, there's really not much to see. The food was bad because there's no dining car yet. There still isn't. The dining car and the observation lounge are both taken out of service at the start of the pandemic, and there's been nothing to replace them since, which is really disappointing. There also wasn't much to do for the same reason as the no observation car. There's nothing to, go relax outside of your room. You just kind of sit and wait. It wasn't really something I was wholly enjoying. I think at the time, the experience of traveling in a sleeper car was, outweighed the problems, but, looking back on it, really not a great experience. I'm not really into food or cooking all that much. I would really like to be. I just haven't found the time to do it. Something that y'all may not know, I collect Legos, and a lot of them. I mainly focus on the vehicles, the cars. There's the 1/8 Technic sets, and I'll pan over. You can see behind me, I've got the Porsche GT3 RS, the Daytona SP3, Sion Mach build. There's the Ford GT. There's the Peugeot 9X8, Ferrari 488, 911 RSR, and then over here, McLaren F1 car. And that's only some of them. There's plenty more. If y'all want to see a tour, I guess a showcase of all of my sets, I can do that at some point. It's not really relevant to anything that I do on this channel, but I have plenty of sets that I could show, so if that's something y'all want to see, sure, I can make that happen. And our last question comes from Matthew Gramala. Thoughts on Scranton to New York City's proposed Amtrak route? I think it's great. I think that restoring a service that once existed, especially restoring it to the Lackawanna cutoff, would be amazing. Especially to see trains, roar down that stretch of rail at 110 would be incredible. And the fact that it hasn't happened already is kind of astounding, especially considering that it's, relatively easy to get up and running. A lot of the infrastructure is already there. The right-of-way has been cleared. It's already a railroad. There's not much of a environmental impact statement that has to be made. It's, we're just turning a railway into a railway, so we can just do that. Of course, there's all the safety requirements that come alongside that, but, is what it is. But yeah, that's it. And I think that's the last of the questions. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this face reveal and 20K special. I'm sorry again that this took so long. I really wanted to get this out earlier, but scheduling just didn't work, and I had a lot going on. Yeah, I can't wait to see what 2024 has in store for us. It's going to be a fun year. There's a lot of really cool things happening in the very near future, whether that be here in the US or travel I plan on doing abroad. So with that, I guess I'll leave y'all with this. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Thanks for riding with me, and I'll see you in the next one.